Well, Nathaniel, now we got the frame blasted completely and epoxied all inside everywhere, and it looks real nice. Back in there was a lot of pitting, so my blaster had to spend a lot of time to get all those layers out of those pits, but she hung with it and got every bit of that out, so that looks outstanding. Now I've got now I'm starting to put in your bolsters, so I'm gonna put these bolsters in here, and I've got them cut where they fit right in there, so that'll be a pretty easy install. I'm going to bring it out just the height of the overlay that I'm going to do up front, so it's going to make it look or make it thicker, and it'll be a lot more solid. Now this area right here is a little rough, so I'll probably talk to you about it a little later on what we're going to do right there. Up front here now, I custom fit these, had these bolsters custom made for this frame rail, so it'll be a pretty easy install. So up front, where your frame comes in smaller for the front F-150 frame, I'm going to have to cut this, and I got this marked to where I can overlay this and put it in place. Now you kind of see how this is going to work out. I've taken this bolster and I made it, had a 2-inch lip on it, and I raised that up all the way, I don't know, maybe 3/16 or so to the overlap, and then squared that bolster up all the way down. Now I made that bolster as big as I can make it, and with 2 inches of adjustment. And then I've bent it here, and I'm transferring that load on down into this. And I'll weld that in place, and then I cut these out of there, and then I'll section them and put them back in there, and it'll look like a factory repair when I get done, and that load is going to be transferred on out pretty good. Then I'm going to come in here and box around your engine bay. Alright, now that I've got these all in place, and I completely welded in place, and they've been, the welds have been stretched and sanded and pickled, and they're ready for seam sealer. I'll come back here and seam seal all the way around every weld I do before I put down the epoxy and paint again. So now I'm going on out the front here. Now the front was already boxed, but the wall of the frame is real thin on the inside. And now with this big heavy Cummins engine that you've got, and the Allison 1000 transmission, the 4-wheel drive, the 1-ton axles, the monster tire, it's going to get a huge amount of stress in this engine bay area. Not only from the motor, but from the steering. The steering is the one that's going to tear it up. So I'm going to go in here and I'm adding a 3/8 plate here. This is 3/16 boxed all the way back. It's the same size as the thickness of the frame, so the frame and this are the same thickness. Now up here I'm going to put a little heavier on the outside, on the inside, and on the outside. So this is what we're using, 3/8 plate. I've been out here playing with my cardboard and getting me a good template. I'm cutting all these in a diamond type cut here to transfer that load. If I just weld it straight across, it just puts a lot of load in that area, or stress, and then they don't want to crack. So it'll distribute that load out a little bit, and then I'll come up here and do it again. Your frame will turn, so I'll turn this piece. I'm going to draw a different cut right here to go along with that next cut, and then that'll distribute that load. Now I've got this side in, and it looks nice and strong, and while I was making this side, since I made both sides exact, I've already drawn out my 2 pieces for the other side, so that ought to go pretty quick. And also, when I fabricated or designed all this and laid it out, I had this made just where it drops below the roll, so I don't have to do anything on the side. There's enough room for my weld to land in there, and then have my roll, and I don't hardly have to go back and dress anything. Alright, now for my last piece. And my templates I used from the other side to make these was an exact perfect fit, so I was able to mark this on for both pieces on one piece of metal, make all these cuts. Here's my next piece. Goes right in place. I've got all this welded in. I'm fixing to stress relieve this weld and then put this one in. On the sides right here where the stress is going to be on that gearbox, I'm going to double plate that. So I've got some more 1/4 inch, and I've made 2 of these, and they're identical. I've already got the other one tack welded in place, and I'll put it on right here, and then this will transfer that load out, but also connect it in behind this front cross member, and then tie that all the way back to here and transfer that load out here. Here you can see I've got it all welded solid in place. I drilled it for these steer box bolts, so now that steer box is sandwiched in there, and that's going to be super strong right there. And then I got it, transferring that load out on both sides. So this is really coming together nice. Well, Nathaniel, now I've got all these completely boxed in and welded solid and holes cut out for your engine mount bolts. Now it's time to move to this front, because I'm going to tie this piece to your front bolster with these last pieces, these notches I've got notched out right here. And so I've got to remove all this area here for your lower radiator hose. Your lower radiator hose is going to be fairly difficult to design around it, around this way. So I was able to do some measuring where I can remove this whole piece right here, and it'll make your radiator hose so much easier to deal with. And I've got all that cut out and plated and stress relieved, and you can see how much better that's going to look, especially when I add the bottom. And I can make the bottom kind of match it, and this front bolster is going to look awesome when I get done with it. When I cut that out and did all that heat, I went ahead and put a quarter power in here, and this thing was around 34 1/16. I pushed it on out to about 34 1/4 or so, and then stress relieve this, and then I'll check it again because I don't want that to move. If that moves, it's going to mess up my motor mounts, it's going to mess up a lot of things. So I got that set, and then I cleaned this piece up. Now this is going to be the back of your front bolster, and I went ahead and trimmed it all the way around where it's like a 1/8 inch or so all the way around, and I'll weld this to the back, then I'll make another one weld to the front. Now I've got my template made, and this is what it's going to look like. Now I got my piece cut out with my plasma cutter for my template here, from my template, and then I'll weld that in just like that. And now you can see how big that bolster is and how much strength I can get in this bolster from up here and around, up here and around. And then I'm plated past it on the outside, plated past it on the inside, and then boxed all the way around in here. Got this piece welded in, and I've left some on the bottom here to draw this out to how I want it to look, and then I'll put a plate on it. I've got the back side on now. You can see how massive that front bolster is now, and that's 1/4 inch plate on the front and the rear, and picks up 1/4 inch on the bottom. And then I don't know if you can see, I extended it out with fingers there to distribute that load a little bit, but I didn't weld to that outside rail or it would crack. So that's looking good. Then right here, I'm going to put in a piece right here for this. It'll tie that into that 1/4 inch piece, and then we are plated all the way around. I'll show you how I got to where I'm at with this piece. So now I took and got the best looking corner, and I think it was this one, and I made a template of that on this. Then I took that and made this end. Then when I made this end, I took this and made another template and turned that around to make the other end. That makes it exactly right. I mean, this is exactly the same on both ends. I just measured in the center, mark it all the way around about every inch. Then I broke it about every 1/2 inch, just one little break, and then did exactly the same. Made a nice piece. Let's see how close it is. There. Now look at that. That is almost perfect. I'll whittle my ends down just a little bit, get this set down in here, have that corner where it is right like that, and be able to fill that corner with my weld real nice and pretty, and very little grinding or dressing up or anything, and it's a done deal. And that's an awesome looking bolster there. Got done welding it, and I was just now stress relieving all the metal, and I wanted to show you this right quick because it looks awesome. This thing looks like something out of a triaxle dump truck. It's 1/4 inch plate front and rear, 1/4 inch plate on the bottom. There's another bolster inside of this thing, cut out and fit around the engine, so that thing is sweet. So now the way I laid that, made that bed in between these two 1/4 inch plates for my weld to lay in, all I gotta do is just grind a little bit on the face, grind a little bit right here, have a little bit of cleanup on the end, keep you a good thick consistent weld all the way around, and that'll be nice. So Nathaniel, here it is. I hope you like it. That is a massive 1/4 inch plate bolster right there. Then I've got it a 1/4 inch plate all tied together in the corner all the way down. Then I do a bolster here all the way down. Then back here's where I want to do one more all the way underneath your rear mount, and then we'll be ready to set the motor and fabricate your transmission mount. But so far so good, and it's going to be extremely beefy.